So here it is, my story. A real, twisted mess of obsession, betrayal, and the stupid blind spots love gives you. I've always been a car guy. Not in the classic engine revving, oil on the hands way, but more like a dreamer. Someone who scrolls through car forums late at night, who watches every new model review on YouTube, and who fantasizes about the day he finally pulls the trigger on his dream vehicle. For me, that dream was a Tesla. I work in IT. It's not flashy, but it pays the bills and then some. I've been frugal most of my life. No designer clothes, no extravagant vacations. But the Tesla was going to be my thing. My reward to myself after years of saving and staying disciplined. My wife, Lana, didn't really care much for cars. She always joked that, as long as it has a Bluetooth speaker and makeup mirror, I'm good. That should have been a red flag, right? A woman who had no interest in what made me light up like a kid on Christmas morning. But I shrugged it off. We were different, sure, but I thought we worked. Married 6 years, no kids yet, just enjoying life, or so I thought. When I told Lana I was finally ready to get the Tesla, she didn't object. In fact, she got really excited about it, which surprised me. Suddenly, she was talking about the color options, the interior, the vibe of the Model S versus the Model 3. It was weird, but I was so wrapped up in my own excitement that I welcomed her interest. It felt like we were bonding. We made an appointment to visit this luxury Tesla-focused dealership about 40 minutes from where we live. I had read online that it was privately owned, kind of upscale. Reviews said the owner was always around, chatting with customers, shaking hands, that sort of thing. We pulled up on a sunny Saturday afternoon. The building was glass-walled, sleek, modern. It looked more like an art gallery than a car dealership. As soon as we walked in, I was already buzzing. The cars gleamed under the lights like spaceships. That's when he approached us. His name was Dorian. Mid-40s, perfect haircut, tailored blazer, Rolex peeking from his cuff. You know the type, charming, confident, magnetic in that. Money doesn't make me who I am, it just enhances it. Way. He greeted us like old friends. Offered us coffee, then sparkling water when Lana declined. He shook my hand but looked at my wife. And Lana? She giggled. I hadn't seen her giggle like that in months. He complimented her outfit, tight beige dress, red lipstick, heels she only wore for parties. I hadn't even noticed how done up she was that day until he said something. He called her elegant. I thought he was just a good salesman. Spoiler, he was a predator. Dorian insisted on giving us the tour himself. I didn't mind. I was too busy nerding out about the features. Meanwhile, Lana hung on every word he said. She asked questions she never would have thought to ask. She laughed at every joke. At one point, she even brushed something imaginary off his shoulder. I should have said something. I should have seen something. But I was just happy she was enjoying herself, too. I wanted this day to be perfect. God, what a fool I was. We picked a Model Y, midnight silver, black interior, enhanced autopilot. It was everything I wanted. I signed the papers, my heart pounding with joy. Dorian clapped me on the back like a buddy. Then he turned to Lana and said, "If you don't mind, I'd love to borrow your lovely wife for just a minute. There's a VIP lounge upstairs. I'd love her input on a special edition interior we're designing. Maybe she can give a woman's perspective." She looked at me, and I said, "Sure." I let her go with him. She smiled and kissed my cheek. "I'll be right back, babe." But she wasn't. I watched them ascend the glass staircase together, her heels clicking, his hand hovering just behind her lower back, not touching, but close enough to signal something I should have noticed. But I didn't. Or maybe I did, and I just didn't want to believe it. I distracted myself by taking a walk around the showroom, circling my soon-to-be car like a proud new father. 15 minutes passed. Then 20. I figured maybe Dorian was just giving her the grand tour of the lounge, maybe offering her a glass of champagne or some VIP pitch. I was fine. I was still on a high from the purchase. But around minute 30, the smile started to fade from my face. The receptionist, a young guy with a headset and a clipboard, glanced up at me from the desk. I asked if he knew how long the tour upstairs usually takes. He looked confused for a second and said, "Oh, the office? I'm not sure. He usually takes, like, a quick meeting. Shouldn't be long." Office? That wasn't what he told me. He said VIP lounge. Something twisted in my gut. I walked toward the stairs, slow but with purpose. I didn't want to seem like that guy, jealous, insecure, overreacting. But the glass banister let me see up to the second floor. There were 2 closed frosted glass doors up there, and only one was lit from the inside. I stopped. And then I heard it. Not voices. Not words. Just a sound. A muffled gasp. Something between laughter and a sigh. I can't explain it exactly, but it shot straight through my chest like a bullet of nausea. I turned back, trying to convince myself it was innocent. That my wife, the woman I married, the woman who had shared my bed for years, wouldn't do something like that while I was literally downstairs, while I was buying a car for our future. But deep down, I already knew. When she finally came back down, it was almost an hour later. Her lipstick was smudged. Her hair slightly tousled. She smelled like a different cologne, stronger, more musky than the perfume she was wearing. She had that glow. That guilty glow you'd never notice unless you were looking for it. She gave me a fake smile, wide and forced. "Sorry, babe. Dorian really wanted my opinion on some design stuff. You know how these car guys are." I forced a chuckle. "Yeah, no worries." No worries. I think that's when a switch flipped in me. I smiled. I pretended to believe her. Because the truth? It was too overwhelming to accept right there. I drove us home in my brand new Tesla, her hand on my knee the entire time like nothing had happened. I didn't say a word. But that night, while she showered, I checked her phone. She never used to have a password. Now she did. She never used to bring it into the bathroom. Now she did. And when she came out, she looked at me and said, "What's wrong?" I smiled again. "Nothing." I was already building my case. After that night, I knew I couldn't unsee the signs. But I also knew Lana was the type who'd lie until her last breath if it kept her in control. She always had a way of flipping situations. If I questioned her about something, suddenly I was insecure or paranoid. So I had to be smart. Over the next few days, I played dumb. Acted normal. Gushed about the Tesla. Let her think I was still wrapped up in my electric dream and oblivious to everything else. And honestly, part of me wanted to be that dumb. It was easier than accepting what I was starting to piece together. I started watching her. Her screen time went up. Way up. Always typing, always smiling at her phone. She started putting on makeup more often. Just in case. She needed to run errands. And she suddenly had meetings. Last-minute catering jobs. That popped up even though she hadn't catered a thing in months. I installed a keylogger on our shared laptop. She rarely used it, but one night she must have slipped. I got lucky. That's when I saw the email thread. It was under a different folder, titled Receipts, as if that made it less suspicious. The exchange was between her and a private email address that looked totally random. But it was the way she spoke in those messages that confirmed everything. "Lana, I can still feel your hands on my hips, you savage. You have no idea how badly I needed that. No one's ever made me feel the way you did in that office. Not even my husband, and he was right there. face with tears of joy. Dorian, you're addictive, babe. The way you moan when well, you remember. Let's make it a regular thing. I want to taste you again. Soon. Lana, he's so obsessed with that car, it's hilarious. He didn't even notice I wasn't wearing underwear when we left the showroom. I stared at the screen for a full minute. My ears were ringing. My hands were shaking. I didn't even realize I grabbed the sides of the laptop until I felt my fingers go numb. She used me. She humiliated me. And worse, she enjoyed it. I printed the emails. I needed them. Not for revenge, not yet, but because part of me knew she'd deny everything even if I caught her mid-act. That's who Lana is, never wrong, never guilty, never honest. 2 nights later, I confronted her. I didn't plan some big dramatic moment. No yelling, no accusing. I waited until we were sitting in the living room, TV on, her feet in my lap, like nothing had changed. She was scrolling on her phone, smirking at whatever Dorian was probably texting her. That's when I calmly said, "How long have you been sleeping with the Tesla guy?" Her thumb froze. Just mid-scroll. For a second, I saw fear in her eyes. That flicker of oh shit. But she masked it fast. "What the hell are you talking about?" she asked, tilting her head like I'd just accused her of being an alien. I kept my tone flat. "Dorian, the dealership owner. The one who kept you in his office for almost an hour. The one who emails you under a fake name about your moaning. That guy." She blinked. Twice. Then scoffed. "Are you seriously going through my emails now? Wow. That's a new level of pathetic, even for you." Not I'm sorry. Not it's not what you think. Just how dare you catch me. You cheated on me, Lana, while I was downstairs buying a car. For us. For our future. She rolled her eyes and stood up, crossing her arms. "Oh, please, don't act like you were doing it for me. You bought that car for yourself. You've been obsessed with it for years. I could have been naked in the back seat, and you'd still be drooling over the autopilot features." I stared at her, stunned. "So that justifies what you did?" "No," she snapped. "What justifies it is that I've been bored out of my mind. You don't even look at me anymore. You spend more time watching car videos than touching me. At least Dorian knows how to make me feel like a woman." That hit harder than I expected. "I'm sorry I didn't worship you 24/7. I was building a life for us. Saving. Planning. Thinking we were a team." She laughed. "You were playing house while I was dying inside. Do you know how many times I tried to get your attention? You made everything about that stupid car. So I figured, why not let the car give me what I want? You used me," I said quietly. She looked me dead in the eye. "And you let me." I didn't respond. What could I say to that? She walked upstairs like nothing happened. Like she hadn't just burned our entire marriage to the ground and danced on the ashes. I stayed downstairs and opened a bottle of scotch I'd been saving for a celebration. I guess this counted. In a way. The next morning was awkward as hell. She made coffee like she always did, scrolling through her phone at the kitchen table as if we hadn't just had that conversation the night before. She didn't mention it. Didn't apologize. Didn't even try to explain further. Just acted like I should have, processed it, and moved on. I didn't say much either. I was too stunned to even fake normal. But I started watching her more closely, and what I saw was worse than I thought. She was already mentally gone. Completely disconnected from this life we'd built. Taking longer showers. Keeping her phone face down. She suddenly had business calls at weird hours and urgent errands that required her to get fully dressed up. Heels, lashes, perfume. And she always came back with that same smug little smirk like she'd just won a bet I didn't know we were playing. But it wasn't just the infidelity that gutted me. It was how little she cared. Lana didn't even try to hide it anymore. In fact, she began weaponizing the affair against me. She'd make subtle digs like, asterisk, Dorian says men like him don't waste time chasing fantasy cars. Asterisk, it's wild how some men can run a business and still make time for passion. Asterisk, you know, it's kind of hot being desired again. It wasn't passive aggression. It was aggression. Direct, cruel, calculated. She was rubbing it in my face, trying to provoke a reaction. But I didn't give her one. Not yet. Because I wanted to see how far she'd go. So I played my part, silent, calm, quietly devastated. I kept up appearances. Went to work. Came home. Slept beside her without touching her. I stopped initiating any intimacy, any real conversation. And she didn't care. If anything, she looked relieved. Then one afternoon, I came home early and saw a second toothbrush in the upstairs bathroom cabinet. Black handle. Definitely not mine. I asked her casually, "Did you get a new toothbrush?" She barely looked up from her phone. "Oh, that? Dorian sometimes comes over after meetings." He needed one. He was coming to my house. To my bedroom. To the place I thought was still ours. That was it. I was done waiting. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was angry, though I was. Not even because I was heartbroken, though that was a constant ache now. No, I stayed awake because I was done being played. The shock had worn off. The humiliation had hardened into something colder, sharper. Clarity. The moment I saw that toothbrush and heard her casually admit he'd been in our home, I realized something important. Lana didn't think I'd ever leave. She believed I was too quiet, too soft, too wrapped up in my Tesla dreams to ever walk away from her. She underestimated me. I called a lawyer the next morning. Quietly. From work. Told him everything. Infidelity, emotional abuse, humiliation. He told me to start documenting everything, and I already had the emails. The texts. I even had a voice memo recording I'd made the night she admitted what she did in that office. It was legal in our state. Single-party consent. I opened a separate bank account and started funneling my direct deposit into it. I put a pause on the joint account, told the bank there was potential fraud. Changed all my passwords. Canceled the shared Netflix, Hulu, everything. Petty? Maybe. But I wasn't going to keep funding the life she was desecrating. I also contacted the dealership. Under a different name and a burner number, I posed as a potential investor. Said I was interested in buying into luxury electric dealerships, and heard Dorian's operation was quite the talk of the town. I wanted to learn more, maybe even get a tour. The receptionist set up a meeting. Perfect. But before that happened, something wild occurred, something I didn't expect. Lana came home one night drunk. Not tipsy. Sloppy. Reeking of expensive wine and desperation. She kicked off her heels and slumped onto the couch, slurring, "Do you ever think you're just, like, invisible to people?" I didn't answer. She laughed bitterly. "He doesn't call me anymore." I turned slowly. "Dorian?" She blinked. "Don't say his name like that. Like the guy who used you for sex and now ghosted you." She went silent. For the first time in weeks, she looked genuinely unsure. Vulnerable, even. Then angry. "He didn't use me." I smiled. "Sure. That's why his toothbrush hasn't moved in a week." Her jaw clenched. Her eyes filled with tears, but the kind that come from ego, not heartbreak. "You don't know anything," she whispered. "No, Lana," I said, standing up. "You don't know anything. But you're about to." She flinched. "What does that mean?" "It means I've been busy while you were busy being someone else's toy." She stared at me, mouth slightly open. I know everything. I've documented it. I've already filed. You're going to be served within the week. And for the first time since that day in the showroom, she looked afraid. 3 days later, she was served at home, mid-morning, in her bathrobe, holding her phone, probably texting whatever poor soul she was trying to replace Dorian with. The look on her face when she opened that envelope. I'll never forget it. She stood frozen in the doorway, flipping through the papers like they were written in another language. At first, silence. Then denial. Then rage. You're divorcing me, she hissed. No, I said, calmly sipping my coffee. I'm setting myself free. She laughed, too loud, too forced. You think you're going to leave me and just ride off into the sunset in your little battery-powered midlife crisis? I stood up, walked over, and looked her straight in the eyes. Lana, I already did leave you. The day I saw what you really are. You won't get away with this, she snapped. You'll regret this. You'll miss me. You think I want to spend another second with someone who treats betrayal like a game? She didn't answer, just stormed upstairs and slammed the bedroom door. That was fine. I had already moved most of my things to a friend's spare room, anyway. She could sulk all she wanted. The papers were signed. The gears were turning. And that wasn't all. Remember that meeting I set up at the dealership? Yeah, that happened. 2 days after serving Lana, I walked back into his domain. Dorian didn't recognize me at first. I wore a suit. Hair slicked back. No Tesla shirt. No giddy, wide-eyed enthusiasm. Just confidence. Cold, polite confidence. When he finally made the connection, I saw it hit him. He stood up from behind his desk, mask of charm instantly back in place. Well, this is a surprise, he said, offering his hand. I didn't shake it. I sat down. Thought I'd stop by. Heard this place had some wild perks for married women. He smiled stiffly. If you came here to cause trouble, relax. I said, I'm not here to punch you. You're not worth it. He stayed silent. I leaned forward. I just wanted you to know she's all yours now. And if you think what happened between you two was discreet, clean, or forgotten, think again. I don't know what you're implying, he said, eyes narrowing. Emails. Voice memos. A toothbrush. I've got it all. But don't worry, I'm not going public. I don't need to destroy you. She did that all by herself. His expression didn't change, but I saw it, panic, behind the eyes. I stood up, straightened my jacket, and added, Oh, and if she's dumb enough to crawl back to you? Good luck. You'll need it. Then I left. And for the first time in weeks, I felt free. A week after I served her, Lana started falling apart. I wasn't around to witness most of it. I'd moved into a furnished short-term rental across town, but word travels fast in a small circle. Mutual friends who once sang her praises started calling me out of the blue. One of them, Emily, who always thought Lana was a little much, didn't hold back. She's a mess, she told me over the phone. She tried to show up at a friend's party like nothing happened. She told everyone you cheated on her, but when someone brought up the Tesla guy, she just stormed out. Lana, the master manipulator, was losing her grip. Apparently, Dorian ghosted her completely after the divorce papers hit. No more texts. No more calls. No more toothbrush in the bathroom. Just silence. I'm guessing he never expected her to become his problem. She wasn't exciting anymore. Just baggage. That crushed her. She tried texting me too. Long messages at 1 a.m. full of twisted logic and crocodile tears. Asterisk. I made a mistake. We can fix this if you just talk to me. Asterisk. Dorian was a phase. I didn't think you'd overreact this hard. Asterisk. Can we at least meet for coffee and talk like adults? I didn't respond. Every message reeked of desperation, not remorse. She wasn't sorry about what she did, only sorry she lost control. Then she got nastier. Asterisk. You're not even half the man he is. You'll die alone in your electric clown car. Asterisk. I gave you the best years of my life. You'll never find someone who puts up with you like I did. Asterisk. Everyone knows you're a joke. I blocked her number. But I knew it was over when she tried to message my sister, of all people, begging her to talk some sense into me, telling her she was ready to be the wife I deserved now. My sister sent her a voice note that basically said, "You had your shot. You torched it. Go text your little car dealer and leave my brother the hell alone." Iconic. Meanwhile, I was slowly piecing myself back together. The Tesla, ironically, became a symbol of everything I'd been blind to. I stopped driving it for a while. It just reminded me of that day. But eventually, I got back behind the wheel. One night, I went for a drive, windows down, music up, and it finally felt like mine. On my terms. I wasn't just moving on. I was reclaiming my life. About a month after the dust settled, something unexpected happened. I got promoted. I hadn't been gunning for it or kissing up. Honestly, I'd been operating on autopilot at work, just trying to keep my head above water. But apparently, all that quiet focus paid off. My manager called me into her office and said she admired how composed I'd been through a difficult personal time. Word had spread. Turns out, Lana's name carried weight, and not in a good way. The raise was generous. I moved into a better apartment. Nothing too flashy, but it had clean walls, peace, and no trace of her perfume. It felt like breathing real air again. One weekend, I stopped by a friend's cookout. Just normal people, burgers on a patio, some music. I hadn't realized how much I missed normal. There was this girl there, Julia. She wasn't flashy or dramatic. Just kind, funny, grounded. We talked about dogs and sci-fi movies, and when I told her about the Tesla, she didn't pretend to care more than she did. She just said, "Nice. Those things are weirdly quiet, huh?" That was it. No fake enthusiasm. No manipulation. Just honest. Refreshing. We started texting a few days later. Then talking more. Then laughing. I didn't jump into anything serious. I needed time to figure myself out. But Julia reminded me what it felt like to connect without games. Without walking on eggshells. As for Lana, she didn't take the divorce well. I heard through a mutual friend she tried to rekindle things with Dorian. Showed up at the dealership one day, uninvited. He had security escort her out. She made a scene. Cried. Screamed. And then she disappeared from social media. Gone. Just like that. No more filtered vacation pics. No more bikini boomerangs. No more blessed and unbothered captions. Guess she finally ran out of filters. I've kept my distance. I don't stalk her pages or ask about her anymore. What's the point? She's not my problem. Not my concern. Not my future. Instead, I focus on what is. Work. Friends. Peace. And me. For the first time in years, I look in the mirror and don't see a fool. I see a man who lost everything he thought he needed, and somehow ended up with more than he ever imagined. It's been 6 months now. 6 months since I walked away from a woman who tore down our marriage like it was disposable. 6 months since I learned that the people who smile the widest can sometimes stab the deepest. And 6 months since I finally decided to stop being the guy who tolerates everything just to keep the peace. The divorce finalized quietly. She didn't fight me for the car. Didn't contest much at all, probably too embarrassed or distracted chasing whatever man she could manipulate next. In the end, she walked away with less than she thought she'd get, and I walked away with something she never had. Peace. I still have the Tesla. It used to be a symbol of my naivety, of how blind I was while she was upstairs with another man. Now it's just a car. A fast, beautiful, stupidly overpriced car that reminds me how far I've come. Every time I drive it, it's not a memory of her, it's a reminder that I survived her. I still think about it sometimes. About the way she lied so easily. About the smirk she had that day in the dealership. About how she looked me in the eye after cheating and made me feel like the problem. But those thoughts don't sting anymore. They just pass. Because I know now that love isn't supposed to feel like gaslighting. It's not supposed to feel like doubt, walking on eggshells, or apologizing for needing respect. If you're reading this and you're dealing with someone who constantly makes you question your worth, your instincts, or your sanity, please hear me. You are not crazy. You are not weak. And you are definitely not unlovable. You're just giving your loyalty to someone who doesn't deserve it. Walk away. Rebuild. Heal. You'll be amazed at what's on the other side of letting go. As for me, I'm not rushing into anything. Julia and I still talk. She knows everything, and she's been patient, kind, and most importantly, real. If something blossoms there, great. If not, that's okay too. Because for the first time in years, I'm not looking for someone to complete me. I'm just happy being whole again. Thanks for reading. A guy who finally woke the hell up.